Hello, America. My name is John Fial, and I'm a relatively average American. I've lived in a bunch of different states, traveled to about 10 different countries. I don't consider myself particularly loyal or claim or allegiance to any one state government more than the others, although I like the 5 or so states that I've lived in. I'm an American. I'm a father, a software engineer. I'm a veteran. I'm part of my neighborhood community. I'm a brother, a son, etc., etc. I've had a number of different jobs, served in the Air Force, got various degrees. And in the day or two after the inauguration of former President Donald Trump, I was so opposed to his presidency that I knew I had to do something. And I thought, on a run the day or two after, on January 20th or 21st of 2017, I was on a run and I realized, wait a second, I think anyone can campaign for the presidency. You only have to be American born. I'm American born. And you have to be 35. I'll be 35 in a few years. Here I am 6 years later. I am 39 now. And I've talked to friends, family, neighbors the last couple of months. They're very supportive of the ideas that I'm going to talk about in this video. But most think that I myself should not campaign because I should start small. I'll have another video responding to those objections. This video is a little bit of a stump speech. It is wasted 2 minutes already talking about me. What would I do? What would my campaign platform be if I'm going to campaign for the presidency? Well, I'm going to focus on 3 things. The first, perhaps most important, is to heal the parchment, so to speak, to think about the Constitution and to recommit to the principles within it, to separate the 3 branches across 3 different cities or geographies around the country. Number 2 is to heal the people of a sort, to write constitutional amendments through the process of debating and discussing and arguing and listening to one another. And number 3 is to heal the planet by focusing on climate change. So again, this brief video is a first draft of this stump speech, which I would give in 10 or so minutes around the country and let people challenge these ideas. Are these really the biggest things we need, not only to survive as a nation, but to move our country forward into the next century? I think they are. I'm open to objections or disagreements or different opinions. So number 1, to heal the parchment, we need to come back to first principles of the Constitution. We need to renew the Constitution itself. We need to renew our commitments to it. And one of those is a separation of powers. Well, all of the power is concentrated in Washington, D.C. You hear various politicians over the decades have various solutions, drain the swamp, and whatever gets votes or gets good responses in their little focus groups and marketing campaigns. Actually, the simplest, best solution is to immediately get the president the hell out of Washington, D.C. Within a year, I would do that. The cabinet can move within a year or so. Most of the buildings and people and infrastructure in the executive branch can relocate within 5 to 15 years, maybe 25 years. That's a lot of work. It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money. It's going to piss a lot of people off. It's going to cause a lot of problems and job loss and all sorts of issues that we don't want to deal with. And it's the right thing to do. 2 of the 3 branches should be relocated outside of Washington, D.C. My personal opinion is that Congress should leave Washington, D.C., set up a new capital and a new Congress somewhere else in the country. But we all know that Congress is so indecisive. If they had to decide an exact shade of the color white to repaint the building, they probably couldn't do that without 18 months deciding on exactly what color of white. So they're never going to pick where to move, much less to move or not. I think that the more practical solution is that the executive branch and the Supreme Court relocate out of D.C. and Congress remains. But if Congress could move outside of D.C., then it could relocate to one of the areas in the center of the country. Everybody can travel equidistant to it. And Washington, D.C. could remain as the historic capital of the country with the Supreme Court. President would relocate to the western third of the country. I've droned on and on too long about this first thing. Why do this? It's so much work. The biggest change and the best change we can make for our federal government, recommitting to the separation of powers, to the checks and balances, is to split up the bureaucracy as it was intended across 3 different geographies, 3 different cities. President and the whole team of the executive branch is in a different place. And if external corporations, corrupt entities, lobbyists, external politicians, foreign governments, all of that outside influence, which comes into Washington, D.C. through the almighty dollar, all that outside influence cannot influence the federal government only by sending its money to Washington, D.C. Our power is not concentrated. It is dispersed and diverse through 3 different areas. I would relocate the president within 1 year of taking office. I don't want to live in Washington, D.C. I'm okay checking out the White House for a little bit, but I don't want to live there. No offense to Washington, D.C. Wonderful, humane, patriotic, devoted, incredible people there. But we all know we need to relocate the branches. Number 2, heal the people and help the people heal ourselves. We have obesity problems, we have systemic problems everywhere, we have environmental problems, we have mental health problems. But one of the things we need to do with regard to the federal government and the Constitution is write constitutional amendments. We have not written an amendment for about 52, 53 years or so. I think it was 1971 we wrote our last amendment. We're supposed to be writing a constitutional amendment every 10 or 15 years. There are all sorts of things that come along. How many good ideas are there for amendments in the last decade or two on the internet and on electronic media and surveillance and privacy? We haven't even begun to touch those because we're so backlogged. In a campaign, I would want to talk about the controversial ones and the ones that have near universal support. In 6 years of talking about these ideas, everyone agrees on term limits. Every single person I've talked to agrees we should have term limits for senators, for House representatives, and for local and state positions. And yet we don't have term limits because the people in Congress don't want to limit their own careers and their money and their power. Most people I've talked to agree that we have an age minimum for the president. We should have an age maximum. You cannot serve as president if you are older than 105 years old. There's a lot of wisdom and wonderful nature and dignity in 105-year-olds. But with all due respect, you should not serve as president. And we can lower that until an age that 2/3 of us agree on. 80 years old, 70 years old, 84, whatever it is. Most people agree on an age limit just as strongly as we agree on term limits. Most Americans agree 1 president per family. We should not have Bush families and Clinton families and Obama families and Trump families. And that should be a constitutional law. And there are 12 or 24 other ideas on the website that you can link there, including a balanced budget and including some more controversial ideas. We need to heal our country by talking about these ideas, by debating them, by listening to one another, and by coming to an agreement on what we want to amend to the Constitution. And third and finally, we need to heal the planet by focusing on climate change. We need to continue developing and implementing climate change solutions at all levels, local, state, regional, and federal. And when we decide and implement those solutions, we need to commit and implement them locally, regionally, state level, federally, send money to the best ones, experiment, move quickly and break things. And we need to do that quickly because we need to export those solutions around the world in a cost-effective manner that's attractive for other countries, so that other countries cannot complain that we don't have the money or the resources or the time to implement these climate change solutions, because the United States acting alone cannot save or heal the planet. But if we continue to do what we are doing, which is nothing, then the planet will continue to burn, other countries will continue their pollution, and we'll get nowhere. And this country and planet for our children will be an extremely different place. We need to heal the parchment of the Constitution. We need to recommit to the first principles inherent in the Constitution, revisit why we wrote it, declaring independence from England in the first place. We need to heal the people in this country, our minds and our spirits and our souls. We need to write constitutional amendments and start that debate process. And we need to heal the planet. We need to commit to climate change solutions, implement them, experiment, and export them around the world. And we need to focus on all of this, I think, this decade, maybe even this election cycle. Thank you for watching. Way too long. I will have other videos on how you can contribute to the campaign. Obviously, please donate. Other videos on what I would like to see from a campaign. I would give this stump speech and let people debate, let people challenge me. If you think you have better ideas and you want to campaign yourself, please campaign. I support that. And write to me on that I should abandon my campaign and donate to yours. Give you all my ideas. That's great. If you don't want to campaign yourself, please donate. We have a great country. Let's keep it great. And let's ensure it doesn't only survive until the next century, whatever happens in the remaining decades, but that this nation thrives and leads the world as we should be doing, as we should have been doing the last century or so. Thank you for your time. Please contribute.